The thoughts, opinions, and general overall shade thrown on High at 9 News are those of the individual speakers and not those of High at 9 News, its audience, or its advertisers. The statements made do not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice, and for advice tailored to your specific situation, please consult with a licensed professional. Welcome to the High at 9 News Hour, where you will hear from cannabis industry experts and professionals from around the country talk about important topics while shining light on global issues and discussing cannabis as it relates to politics, regulation and reform, data and technology, science, research and medicine, family and parenting, art, celebrities and entertainment, fitness, sports, mental health and wellness, and plant-based medicines and entheogenics. Together, we are building a stronger community, fighting the stigma and creating change. With your hosts, Jason Beck and Rico Lamitte, joined by special industry expert correspondents from around the country, and daily antics brought to you by Cannabis. Coming to you live every Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific Time and high noon on the East Coast. And thank you all for getting high at 9 with us.
Oh, yeah. Good morning, everybody. That's right. It is Friday, April 5th, and today is First Contact Day for all yous looking to get a hold of aliens and whatnot. It's also National Flash Drive Day, National Nebraska Day, because everyone loves corn, Deep Dish Pizza Day, National Ready to Read a Map Day, because I feel like that's a lost art and people don't know how to do that. People will be lost without their GPS. As well as probably the most important part of today, it is also National Gold Star Spouses Day. So shout out and big love to all of the Gold Star spouses out there. Adam, can we get a round of applause or a little patriotic little... There we go. There we go. Oh, yes. Thank you for joining us and getting high at 9 with us. That's also high noon on the East Coast. And please remember to like, share, and subscribe to us on all social media platforms. You can look up above on your screen to see exactly where we live on the internet. And we are live every Monday through Friday on YouTube, Rumble, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and on our very own website at www.highat9news.com. But kicking it off first, we're going to switch up the rotation just a little bit today. We are going to roll right on into the Count himself, the immortal man from up there in the 707. That's right, Mr. Mathieu St. Germain, who is a happy little wizard just trolling his way through life. That's right, is none other than the Count himself, Mr. Mathieu St. Germain.
Thanks, Brother Jason.
Yes, sir.
Morning, fellow correspondents. Good morning, everybody out there. Really excited. This story is brief but powerful. It comes from the Marijuana Herald, and it's and the byline is study shows CBD alleviates neurological deficits following traumatic brain injury. This is big. Traumatic brain injury, a severe clinical problem, is compounded by a lack of effective treatments, impeded intracranial metabolic waste clearance. It's the study. Cannabidiol, CBD, has the potential to address metabolic imbalances, improve cognitive functions in neurodegenerative diseases. Its specific effect on TBI is unclear. Using a fluid percussion injury model, researchers adopted a comprehensive approach that included behavioral testing, various imaging tests, cervical lymph node ligation, evaluate CBD's effect on neurological outcomes and lymphatic clearance in a mouse model. Results demonstrated that CBD markedly enhanced motor, memory, and cognitive functions, correlating with reduced levels of detrimental neuroproteins, waste products. CBD also expedited the removal of intracranial tracers, increased cerebral blood flow, and improved tracer migration from lymphatic vessels to the DCLNs. Researchers state that, intriguingly, CBD treatment modified aquaporin 4 polarization and diminished neuroinflammatory indicators. Key observation was that disrupting different lymphatic channels nullified CBD's positive effect on cognitive enhancements, whereas its anti-inflammatory benefits continued regardless. Researchers concluded their study and this paper by saying, these findings suggest that CBD's ability to improve waste clearance may operate via the lymphatic system, thereby improving neurological outcomes in TBI patients. Therefore, our study underscores CBD's potential therapeutic role in TBI management. Now, this is exciting because there's other neurological diseases like MS and Parkinson's that also have to do, one of the big problems with them is waste clearance of damaged brain elements. And so if CBD can do this and has an anti-inflammatory effect, probably has a great effect on several different neurological disorders. I know we have two doctors with us. I'm really excited to hear what the doctors say and the rest of my correspondents. This is St. Germain, first to bat on a Monday for the High at 9 News. Take it away, guys.
Man, I can't.
Yeah, this is significant. You know, there was some previous work that showed that CBD helps an outcome in various TBI models. We know that CBD has its neuroprotective properties. It acts as an antioxidant. It's fat soluble, and the brain is fatty tissue, so it very nicely can be distributed throughout the brain. But the one key thing here that you're referring to in this study is, again, this percussion model, which is looking at, how readily the brain sort of heals itself. And one thing we do know, Matthew, is that CBD in a variety of different studies now have shown to reduce neuroinflammation. And there's many mechanisms by which that happens, because CBD acts peripherally on the central nervous system. But in general, what they know for cannabinoids in general, not just CBD, but cannabinoids, and particularly the cannabinoid acids, inhibit a known calcium current into cells that result in the release of pro-inflammatory cytokines. So we think that this could be actually the mechanism by which cannabinoids elicit their anti-inflammatory properties, but reduction of neuroinflammation post-traumatic brain injury could really be the key to survival of a traumatic brain injury event. And I'd be interested what our colleague Dr. Talleyrand has to say, but I know for a fact that, again, the government has its own patent on the neuroprotective properties of cannabidiol and other cannabinoids. So these things do quench reactive oxygenated species that are in the brain that are responsible for all kinds of bad things after injury. So I think it can only help. But I'll defer to Dr. Talleyrand, who's an actual doctor, right? I'm just a PhD
You're an
chemist.
actual doctor too.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a PhD chemist, just to be known. I know a lot about how cannabinoids work in the body, but let's hear from Dr. Talleyrand, who actually sees patients.
Thanks, Dr. Mark. I agree. On the surface, this is a great news, but it's also old news. And I'm a people doctor, and I'm asking myself, so where's the study on people rather than animal models? People are different. CBD is pretty harmless. We agree that. World Health Organization feels it's harmless. So we should be doing this study on people rather than animals. And they're dissecting, they're trying to figure out why CBD is neuroprotective or helps with the anti-inflammatory effects of traumatic brain injury. And they are trying to discover it because they're looking for molecular pathways so that they might be able to create drug agents that can mimic those pathways. But meanwhile, we have CBD, it's harmless. Those with traumatic brain injury should have access to it now rather than waiting for these animal studies to try to discover a molecular pathway for drug development. So what I'm trying to say is it's good on the surface, but it's also missing the point. Let's do some human studies. Let's do studies on NFL players who are constantly getting beat with head trauma. This is important enough to skip these animal studies and go straight to people studies.
I agree. And Doctor, my friend Paul Burnett, the COO that's trying to help me start this, or is helping me start this nonprofit that's doing exactly what you're talking about, which is doing studies on non-patentable molecules that are far less expensive, far more accessible, far less harmful. That's our big goal, is to get the donor money so we can get these studies done and get these able by insurance, able by doctors. Easy enough. His girlfriend is a doctor at UCLA. He is the head doctor in charge of this longitudinal TBI study on every NFL player to have ever played the game. And I brought up CBD and the idea for her to use CBD on these folks. Actually not allowed to because of the federal funding that UCLA gets as a teaching hospital and the fact that CBD is still a Schedule I drug.
What?
So I know a lot of people are anti, making cannabis Schedule III. I think there are some better ideas behind doing that. But at the same time, if cannabis were to be Schedule III, UCLA, Johns Hopkins, these other teaching universities would then be okayed to not lose their funding in doing these studies, and they could actually, Talleyrand could actually give CBD to every NFL player to ever have played.
Well,
there's lots of NIH-funded CBD studies going on. In fact, if you just go to NIH.gov and you look at, you just use the keyword cannabinoid, you'll see there's over 950 trials. Not all of them are clinical trials in humans. Some of them are preclinical. And I just to put in a word for preclinical trials. Preclinical trials are necessary before you take these things into humans to really understand what their safety is. It's one thing if you kill a couple lab rats, but it's certainly another thing if you kill a whole bunch of patients in a population because you don't really understand the safety of these medicines. All medicines, without exception, have been tested in animals before they were tested in humans because researchers have very accurate animal models to basically mimic how they would work in humans. And if you try to ask the FDA to sanction clinical trials in humans without preclinical data in animals, it just doesn't happen. Now that said, I want to just point out that at first the NFL was not interested in addressing concussion and addressing traumatic brain injury. They were just interested in the lip service to fund some highly funded groups at very large universities that already are at the NIH feeding trough that didn't need the money from the NFL. It was just lip service to say, oh, we're the NFL and we're spending money on research. Finally, 3 years or 4 years into this, they've recognized that they better start looking at traumatic brain injury and concussion. You ever watch the movie Concussion with Will Smith? You'll never watch a football game the same way again. Okay? Your vision of contact sports will change after watching that movie. The last thing I'll say, Rico, I'll let you go after this, is that they should be spending money looking at what happens to football players after they retire and they're suffering CTE. CTE is a chronic traumatic encephalopathy, which basically turns your brain into Swiss cheese, which is why some of these football players, after they've made millions of dollars for their football teams and FedEx and all the other sponsors, after they've made their millions, right, they're left to basically go out to pasture and basically lose their fucking minds because of the game that they played. So the NFL better start spending money on looking at how they could make retirement for these NFL football stars a little bit more comfortable when it comes to dealing with traumatic brain injury issues that they've suffered while they were playing the NFL. Go ahead, Rico. I'll let you go.
No, I mean, I'm chomping at the bit over here to talk about the NFL thing. Yeah, they tried to suppress that movie and its release. NFL knew from the late 70s about CTE. And they just started talking about it because of the hubbub that was raised in the late 90s. And we didn't get a movie about it until it was like 2010, 2015. And that came out. And then they wanted to be applauded when they put $1 million into the research. Your commissioner makes $44 million a year. And you're bringing in billions of dollars a year and you put $1 million into research. But this is an absolute no-brainer. Get this to football players. No-brainer.
So,
get this to combat.
Rico, I think they're now funding some work that's going on at a Canadian university of all places, right? Looking at CBD's impact on traumatic brain injury. So that's a very recent move, just in the last, few handful of months. But I think if you Google Mary Jane and CBD and traumatic brain injury, you might get, I know our friends over at Curious on Cannabis did a podcast with that woman, and I guess she's getting money from the NFL to do some type of traumatic brain injury research. But I'll go back to what Dr. Talleyrand said. The time is now to put this into humans. We should be on the sideline right now administering CBD on a concussion. It should be happening now. They don't need to wait for any research. The research is already out there. They should be basically administering CBD after concussion at NFL games now. Period.
I mean, they should be injecting all NFL players regularly with CBD, because even just having that in your system, injecting 100%, injecting exactly, Rico. What do you want them to do?
That's dramatic.
Oh God,
guys! Jason and I have been injecting CBD together for about a year now.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
We've been mainlining.
We don't share needles though.
No, no. There's no needle exchange here.
These are the public injection sites that you've been talking about.
I think we should turn all the harm reduction centers into treatment centers for the NFL players and inject them with CBD. How about that?
Yeah, just get a CBD drip. Is that what
Yep. Keep it drippy.
Why stop there at LSD?
Oh man, you know what? And on that,
I'm talking about.
Yeah, oh boy, we're gonna go to a commercial. We're gonna be right back.
Oh man, that was weird. Hey, you America. Do I look like Sean Connery? Good morning, America. Saman Razani coming to you live from sunny Los Angeles, California, with the one and only highest host, Mr. Jason Beck, smoking on the best weed in the world. Did you know that we have an audio-only version of our podcast? You can find it on Apple, Google, Amazon, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. No excuses in 2024. If you haven't checked us out, check it out now. And also, check out what the Prophet's doing in 2024.
All right, y'all. Up next, we have a legendary cannabis doctor who probably wrote your mama's rec. Founder of Medican, co-founder of CESC, and about 10 years younger today, Dr. T. What you gotta say, man? What's your secret? What is your secret? Is it the crossfade?
He's all dressed up for his press conference today. Oh, you're on mute. You're on mute, Dr. T. There we go. Now we got you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm feeling old. So I don't. It's the lighting. Something. So my story. Thanks, Rico. Appreciate it. Happy Friday, everyone. My study today is from News Medical Life Sciences. Another study shows positive impact of medical cannabis laws on mental health from the University of Basel, Switzerland. In a new study, researchers from University of Basel investigated whether medical cannabis legislation in the USA is improving the mental health of those who use cannabis for medical reasons, and whether it has a negative effect on the mental health of the general population. We talk about recreational and medical cannabis use without clear understanding of the difference. As a result, some see cannabis as a vice, like alcohol or tobacco, and fear the negative consequences from addiction. The medical counter highlights that cannabis has benefits for people suffering from pain, nausea, seizures, or other conditions. In Switzerland, they are evaluating what has happened in the U.S. so that they might learn from our mistakes. For this analysis, researchers combined two large data sets. Approximately 8 million people took part in telephone surveys between 1993 and 2019 as part of the Behavioral Risk Factor Surveillance System, which collect data on mental health, among other things. They also use data from the National Survey on Drug Use and Health. The respondents included a range of cannabis users, from those who completely abstain to those who claim recreational use to those who use it medically. Mental health, that includes addiction, was measured using self-assessment, where respondents recalled the number of days they had mental health problems in the previous month. Using statistical methods, the researchers measured the impact of the legal approach to cannabis on people who use for medical reasons. They concluded that the mental health of medical cannabis users improved with legal access. The authors estimate that medical cannabis users spend 0.3 days less per month due to changes in the law. The same applies to those who have pain. Also good news is that medical cannabis legalization does not have a negative effect on the general population. Researchers found no effect on the mental health of recreational users, including the younger population. So why do we consider cannabis a vice? Why are we putting age limits and potency caps on a product that generally does not have negative effect? Is it possible that recreational use is a poorly thought out classification that appeases older generations who believe that cannabis is a vice? What else benefits the sick and does not negatively affect the general population? Vitamins. With a study this large, prohibitionist groups like SAM don't have a leg to stand on. SAM creates fear for cannabis hurting the population, but the smart approach seems to be to legal access to cannabis. Based on these results, cannabis does not appear to be a vice. So, are the recreational users really just using for wellness or well-being? What do you think? This is Dr. Jean Talleyrand with
Dr. T. This just goes and reiterates what we have always said since the beginning of this: is that all use is medical use, regardless of whatever reason you think that you're consuming cannabis for, even if you have no reason.
And I think I think the recreational use is a Trojan horse for those who are prohibitionists in some way. It gives them a way to sort of suppress this. They're just partying. They're just having fun. It's a vice, like alcohol and tobacco.
It gives them a way to marginalize it.
It's not causing negative effects.
It gives them a way to marginalize.
No, we just out here medicating, bro.
Yeah. They don't like that because they're like, no medicine. You don't smoke any medicine. They don't like it when you call it that. They get offended.
Even though it's not harming, at least it's not harming mental health, right?
Exactly. I think that's for sure. That is
your mind right.
Sure. That is for sure. You have any thoughts on this, Mathieu St. Germain?
I think it's a huge positive.
I just think that this is great news. Another big chunk of great news, and I think we really need to move more and more out of the stigma of cannabis illegalization and realize this thing is a medicine that has been with the human race for probably 100,000 years plus. We've been eating. It started most likely with us eating the seeds. Then from eating the seeds, somehow somebody got a hold of some decarboxylated cannabis. My favorite story is the Scythians. Scythians were horse warrior nomads in the Eurasian steppes. The way that they would party is they would have these big rituals where they would have their tents, would start a big bonfire in the middle of the tent, and they would just throw cannabis plants onto the bonfire, and they would play drums and sing and chant, dance around the bonfire, and basically hotbox the tent and get high to the sky all night. And so this is something we've been doing as a species so very long. And anybody who knows the great work of Jack Herrera, who wrote The Emperor Wears No Clothes, we all know that this was Harry Anslinger and the Dow Company, William Randolph Hearst, getting together once again this system of patents that we have in America, and going towards the profit and the funneling of profits into one person's pockets, racism and outright lies about the danger of this gentle healing plant, to make billions upon billions of dollars on nylon, on synthetic paints, and on cutting down all of our old growth trees. And to go even farther in this, Paul Stamets, the world's preeminent mycologist, has stated that that was an ecological travesty, likes of which we've really never seen on this earth, because these old growth mushrooms are a reservoir of, these old growth forests, are a reservoir of these polypore mushrooms, which are the hard shelf mushrooms. These hard shelf mushrooms have been humanity's #1 medicine cabinet right along with cannabis and a couple of other plants, again, for thousands of years. When they found Otzi the Iceman, they found several of the bog mummies. They always have this little pouch on their belt at the side, and the contents of the pouch are these polypore mushrooms. These polypore mushrooms contain polysaccharides, very complex sugar molecules, go into our body and act as like programming code, and they upregulate our body's immune system. They can fight and kill cancer tumors. So we just need to continue to expose the truth that the real medicine cabinet that grows for free from the ground and the trees and the fungi for us to use has been hijacked and hidden from us so that people can have 16 vacation houses and continue to lord over other people like serfs, and it has to change. So read The Emperor Wears No Clothes. Do some research on the internet yourself about these substances and where they come from, and help us all return to a more wholesome, healthy, and holistic approach to nature and healing ourselves.
Matthew, let me just correct one thing in your history. It wasn't Dow, it was DuPont.
Right. You're right.
DuPont.
I'm sorry.
DuPont came up with nylon, and while it's true that a DuPont nylon parachute saved George Herbert Walker Bush when he jumped from his plane, it was hemp rope that held the nylon parachute to him. So hemp played its role in there. But the important thing was, like, so they wanted to turn, so Hearst had huge lumber holdings, and his friends were all huge lumber barons out in the Pacific Northwest, and they wanted to turn all that forest into paper, right, that they could print their propaganda on, right? And DuPont sold the chemicals to make paper, right? So why would they want that to change, right? Mm-hmm. So just to add that to your history, it wasn't Dow, it was DuPont.
Right. Yes, sir. I stand corrected. It was DuPont. I equally hate both of them and sometimes get them confused. And also, right then was when the hemp decorticator came out. It was a machine that was going to dramatically lower the labor input costs. Then you got to a point where an acre of hemp produces 4 times as much paper as an acre of trees, and an acre of hemp can produce that 4 times the amount every year, whereas a stand of old-growth trees takes hundreds of years to replace.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and just to add that 4 number in there again, is that there's 4 times the amount of lignin in wood, right? Wood's got to grow, entirely straight, and has to be this huge gargantuan thing. So that needs a lot of lignin, because if you don't have lignin, guess what? You have cellulose, and what's cellulose? Just paper, right? So it's the lignin that basically holds it together. So there's 4 times the amount of lignin in wood than there is chemical and there is in hemp. So guess what? You need 4 times the amount of chemicals, right?
Oh. Yep.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
So
yeah.
Go figure.
Do the math. In fact, that's for you, Rico, right there. Follow the money. Follow the money, Rico.
Follow the money.
That's right.
Was DuPont? Was the DuPont family responsible for Teflon too?
Well, that wasn't really the family. By then, it was several generations in. I have to, put this disclaimer out. I worked for DuPont for 18 years, so I had sort of an inside view of that gargantuan company. And my hippie friends always gave me shit for working there, but I figured, hey, it's good to have someone like me in there, like
someone on the inside. I agree with that.
And again, all the projects that I worked on wasn't from petrochemicals and their legacy around nasty chemistry. It was trying to do good green chemistry, which most chemical companies want to do, and they do mostly for the lip service and the PR. But what St. Germain said is absolutely spot on correct, because they had a dog in the fight. Why would you want to upset making millions of dollars turning trees into toilet paper?
Mm-hmm.
So stir the money.
Yeah.
You do not want to stir the money pot.
It's all about that money. It's all about that.
Not for big industry. Yeah.
We're gonna keep this train rolling. We're gonna roll right into the Mr. Dope Dad himself. He's a happy cabbage specialist on top. That's right. What are you wearing? Is that a Black Star hat again?
Nah, man, this is Shy Boys, man.
Oh, Shy Boys. Oh, you wore that. You wore that for Deep Dish Pizza Day. I see. I get it. Okay. All right. That's right. It is the Dope Dad himself who apparently loves Deep Dish Pizza. That's right. It is none other than Rico Lamitte.
Oh, thank you, Jason. kind of agnostic on deep dish these days. You know, you get like 1,700 calories a slice, and you just like take a nap afterwards. I know Elise is rolling her eyes at me.
Uh-huh.
Over there.
I love deep dish.
Yep.
I used to love deep dish, and I will always go to Pequod's. Big shout out to Pequod's. Big shout out to Blue Mountain Oddies back in Chi City. But you know, we're gonna talk about New York today.
All right.
So I do know that Good Friday was last week, but you know what? It's Good Friday once again in New York, and we finally got some positive news to report for cannabis retailers out in the Empire State today. The Albany County Supreme Court struck down the New York Office of Cannabis Management's new marketing regulations, making it easier for cannabis companies to educate, market, and advertise to the public. And who can the Empire State citizens give thanks to for their newfound freedom of speech? Leafly. That's right, y'all. They are not dead. Cannabis information website Leafly filed a lawsuit against New York cannabis regulators last September, challenging rules that would prevent dispensaries from marketing themselves or fulfilling orders on a third-party platform. The state Supreme Court found that the agency's rulemaking process was problematic and its regulations unconstitutionally vague in violation of free speech rights, according to the order issued on Thursday. Politico's Mona Zhang, the order stated that the state did not present any evidence to rebut the arguments presented by Leafly and nothing to establish the rationale or reasoning behind the OCM or CCB decisions. The court initially tossed out a huge chunk of New York's marijuana regulations on Wednesday, but about a day after the initial order, the court narrowed the ruling to apply only to the marketing and advertising restrictions that Leafly challenged. Zhang said that this means dispensaries will be able to advertise and fulfill orders on third-party platforms while keeping the rest of New York's adult use cannabis rules intact. However, the ruling could set the stage for additional legal challenges for other parts of New York's adult use cannabis law. Other petitioners joined Leafly in filing the lawsuit, including Stage One, a cannabis dispensary in Rensselaer, New York, and Rosanna St. John, who said she really relies on Leafly to make informed decisions as a cannabis consumer. The state failed to submit any evidence to support cannabis regulators' reasoning behind adopting the market rules. According to Judge Kevin Bryant, here's what he said: "There's nothing in the record to establish precisely how OCM even developed the regulations, which staff members participated in the process, or how they addressed the litany of issues that were raised not only by petitioners, but by other individuals who submitted comments." The OCM said in a statement in response that they are reviewing the decision and exploring all possible legal options. Say what you want about the company's struggles over the years to properly position itself outside of the long shadow of weed maps as a formidable alternative and develop its own identity. But this is definitely a huge victory for Leafly. Not only have they delivered a decisive blow to the New York market's draconian restriction of speech, but they're emerging from this victory as a champion of the people. Smart Money says that that they market the hell out of this thing and ride their weed for the people victory into the hearts and pockets of operators across the state. But don't call it a comeback. Leafly stock was up 7.3% in early trading this morning as a result. Do you guys think it is a buy? My name is Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street for High at 9 News. Let me hear from you guys. You guys buying into the Leafly? They're gonna win? Are they gonna upswing here?
Of course, Leafly stock is up. Of course it is. Anytime something like this is gonna happen. I mean, I feel like after all of this, like New York just like, oh my goodness, like all the regulators at the OCM, they're having a real bad day today. Okay. Yeah. They're having a real bad day today. They're like, everything we just did is all ruined. Oh my God. What are we going to do? We're not going to be able to go and do any enforcement. All of this selective enforcement we've been doing, we're not going to be able to do it anymore. And I feel like New York, their only option now, especially after this case, I think their only option now is just to say, hey, you know what? If you have a storefront business and you want to sell weed, you have to apply for this and pay this fee, and boom, and there you go. Now you can just sell weed, and that's how it's going to go.
Nah, man, I told you from the jump, that is not their only option.
That's their only option.
The same day that Eric Adams said, oh yeah, you can smoke weed wherever you want, they reopened broken window policies. Their other option is to go nuclear and start doing stop and frisk on all of these people. They have the power to do that again. Don't believe a cop. Eric Adams is a cop.
Oh,
simple as that.
Eric Adams is a cop. He is a cop. You have any thoughts on this, Elise? All of your marketing skills and whatnot. It's very fascinating.
Yeah. I love Leafly. Shout out to David Downs, their editor there. And did you know Leafly is actually owned by privateers, so they're not going anywhere. And yeah, I think this is a win for the people, win for weed, of course, and yeah, win for marketing. Don't be surprised if, you see Leafly trying to get into the delivery game, or perhaps, do some partnerships out there in New York. I would see them trying to leverage this for operational revenue as well. But I think they already, I don't know if their site links directly to purchase cannabis in states where it is legal or not, but I heard they're going to try to get to that point. How like wine and alcohol, a lot of websites, as you read reviews, you then can buy directly online. So that's where a lot of people want to see cannabis going. But we have all the red tape to deal with in the way. So yeah. I love this win. Thanks, Leafly.
That's more of a direct-to-consumer model right there, man.
Just to be on the other side of the issue, what are they doing that's unique? What is their business model? What's their product? How much money do they make selling that product? Right? Is all their product just internet content? So they want my eyeballs? Is that what their business model is?
That's
just grabbing model. Eyeballs to bring to a website?
Yep.
Really?
They're mining eyeballs.
Think of it like this. Dr. Mark. You're not just the eyeball. Basically, what you are is the road system that is delivering the customer to where they want to go. You are the infrastructure of the freeway.
Yeah, get in line with 10 other sites, right? I mean, holy shit, do we really need that? Is that really valuable? I mean, really, is that really helping things? I understand, like, a lot of these sites, they love people like me because you know why? They need content, right? And they have nothing to write about, so they recycle each other's content. And you end up reading about the same different thing from like 3 different places. So I would urge them to maybe hire some people who actually can create content and not just recycle content, because this is getting old, man. And I don't know if you got $100, do you want to invest in something that there's 10 other sites that do the same thing? I don't know.
You clearly don't read Leafly, Mark.
I don't. So educate me as being the critical person.
Oh yeah, go for it, Elise. Go for it, Elise.
Please.
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, David Downs is one of the best editors and journalists in all of cannabis, and he is the senior editor at Leafly. And I also know other journalists and creators that he's hired to do content for the site. So I actually think they do a great job. And while there are other sites that do what they do, or a lot of people try to get into this game of being the, I guess they started as strain reviews, right? Leafly was the premier source where you'd go if you wanted to look up Sour Diesel and see how it made you feel, or Blue Dream, or what.
Oh, you mean when Sour Diesel was a hybrid?
I was gonna say it.
I picked an OG strain for a reason, right?
I know, especially that was the one they had all the controversy about.
Blue Dream is an indica.
Really?
Yeah.
I need a website to find out how Sour Diesel is going to make me feel.
Hey, Mark, not everyone's a hippie like us and knows.
Yeah,
I mean,
hey, Mark,
the article said she goes to Leafly or trusts Leafly to figure this stuff out. Again, do you and I need it necessarily, to look up a strain? No, but do other consumers? Apparently, yes. And then in terms of the stories they report on, there's good stuff there. Mm-hmm. That said, the value or the business model, I believe it's the brands. The brands pay to be on the site to get in front of the eyeballs.
Right.
And
yep. And
it's just a marketing thing, right?
It's journalism, it's marketing, it's consumer I guess, marketplace in a sense, or leading the consumer to a marketplace, I think is the next step there.
Yeah, and I know when the New York market opened that they were going to really go heavy into education. We had been working with a lot of folks at Happy Cabbage out there to get education out there and stuff, and we ran into a lot of roadblocks because of these marketing rules. So it's a huge victory for us to actually help these cannabis retailers get their messaging out there and really engage with the customer base, because you know what, the trappers are doing it. The trappers are getting
that's what I'm saying.
Why can't we?
That's what I'm saying. The only thing New York can do after this is just give everyone a license. Just stop all the ridiculousness. Just give people license.
Well, there was also recently a story in the news where somebody in New York has said that all of their laws are unconstitutional, right? That the whole cannabis program itself in New York is unconstitutional.
Yeah, we'll be covering that on Monday. I have the whole lawsuit, and that will be.
I mean, technically, what in America is not?
Oh man, you know what? On that, we're gonna go to a commercial. We're gonna be right back. You guys are funny.
The control tower from Highly Educated has perfected the dab. Utilizing the concept of thin film evaporation, you can waste none of it and taste all of it. The micro texture of the SE pillar increases nucleation at elevated temperatures. And with the tower propelling at 2,600 RPMs, it's certainly the most efficient dab experience to date. The control tower from Highly Educated.
All right, stop whatever you're doing. Make sure you hit that like button. I know we'll appreciate it. You'll appreciate it, and you'll have a better weekend. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you've not subscribed already. And all of the articles that we cover on today's show, you can read directly on our website at www.highat9news.com.
I'm Jason Beck, and this is Smoky Vanilla. And if you want to feel as good as I look, then you need to get a stretch and smoke with Smoky Vanilla.
Hi, I'm Smoky Vanilla. I have my bachelor's degree in kinesiology, and I'm a sports massage therapist and stretch coach. I focus mostly on individuals that are in sport with chronic pain or injury. I love to intuitively create and customize a session based on the individual that I'm working with. We'll go over a few postural assessments, work together to create a wellness journey based on the health history, past injuries, or anything still affecting you today. And we'll get you back on your feet right away with less pain.
We're about to stretch, and then we're gonna smoke, because we're gonna get on our stretch and smoke. If you want to feel as good as I look, then you need to come on down and get a stretch and smoke with none other than Smoky Vanilla.
All right, y'all. Hope you got your notepads ready for another dope Friday lesson from the pot professor himself. Up next is the New England-based anti-booth peddler of truth, an organic chemistry and plant oil extraction expert, here to break us off with a little bit of that Friday science. Y'all know who it is, Dr. Mark Scialdone.
Thank you, Rico. Happy Friday, everybody. And kind of a big day here on the East Coast. We had an earthquake today.
Oh.
You know? That's big.
How strong was it?
4.7.
That's all right. That's
California sending more than weed over there, huh?
It was centered in Lebanon, New Jersey, and felt in New York City, but we felt it up here in Vermont. And so, yes, it's earthquake day.
So all the leaves got ruffled. All the pine needles fell off.
So there's a whole lot of shaking going on. So my story today, happy Friday, everyone. Hope you're having a good week and you got a great weekend planned. We actually also have we are in the path of totality for the eclipse on Monday. So Vermont is going to be overwhelmed with flatlanders who are coming up here to watch the dark star. So my story today comes from the MJ Biz Daily. It's hemp-derived THC producers wary of how U.S. Farm Bill could change market. It's covering our favorite topic, which is hemp and its differentiation from cannabis. But the article starts, hemp drinks are big business in the United States and poised to grow even bigger. I thought you'd like that, Jason. Mm-hmm. Mary Bernuth wants in, and she's not alone. Thanks to the 2018 U.S. Farm Bill, hemp-based products are at least quasi-legal across the United States, and unlike marijuana, they're shippable across state lines. Companies big and small are betting on hemp-derived drinks becoming the next big thing for health-conscious, smoke-wary consumers. Bernuth's Pharos Brands was one of 30 hemp-derived THC beverages companies at a Wine and Spirits Wholesalers of America January Expo at the Las Vegas Convention Center. According to the Hemp Beverage Alliance, hemp drink companies took up as much as 10% of the floor. "We're killing it," Bernuth said. Bernuth told MJ Biz magazine from the bustling convention hall. Things went so well, she's banking on contributing to a movement as well as running a successful business. "We want to make this mainstream," she said. "We feel hemp beverages are an essential piece of destigmatizing THC. But when the first can of Pharos seltzer is sold in the United States this spring with 2.5 milligrams of hemp-sourced THC, it won't be sold in Montana, where Bernuth lives, or where Pharos is produced. That's because Montana law requires any end product with more than 0.3% THC to be sold at a state-licensed marijuana dispensary. Such rules don't exist on the other side of the Dakotas in Minnesota, where in 2022 state law specifically allows products with low doses of hemp-derived THC to be sold through mainstream retail outlets such as supermarkets and convenience stores, as we have covered here numerous times on the High at 9 News. In a familiar theme, states around the country offer similar patchwork of conflicting rules. At least for now, that's the case. The federal law that has allowed hemp-derived products product market worth billions of dollars to emerge almost overnight could soon change, and dramatically. The intoxicating hemp market, from drinks to gummies or smokable flower, the company's appetite for psychoactive products sourced from hemp is enormous. And it's what economist Bo Whitney estimates conservatively at a $28.4 billion market. Barely existed before 2018's Farm Bill accidentally legalized it. The Farm Bill, which legalized the production of hemp across the United States, was intended to be a boon for long-suffering or producers of low THC cannabis, and intended to be spun into fabric, pressed into oil for fuel, and processed into other health foods. Hemp is a source of CBD, or cannabidiol, which can be converted into psychoactive delta-8 THC, can also be converted into delta-9, hence the boom in delta-8 infused products across the country. The latest evolution is hemp-derived delta-9 THC. Oh, okay, so the author caught up with me. Operators with enough hemp could also extract delta-9 hemp to produce and ship gummies and other infused products that are functionally identical to state-regulated marijuana products across the country. It's conventional wisdom that federal lawmakers did not create this new market when they legalized hemp production nationwide with the 2018 Farm Bill. Since then, businesses, including Pharos, have existed in a state of uncertainty that some argue, if you can believe it, is even more confusing than the regulated marijuana industry. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration has publicly declared that hemp-derived THC has serious health risks, and the Drug Enforcement Administration has hinted it doesn't consider any hemp extracts to be legal. However, federal regulators have taken a limited enforcement action over this market. Only companies selling products marketed with unproven medical claims or marketed with packaging similar to mainstream snack and beverage brands have drawn attention in the form of letters from the US FDA. And then nothing more seriously happens other than cease and desist letters. But it is also understood that this uneasy status quo is temporary. Depending on when Congress passes the next farm bill and exactly what's in it, the ground could shift underneath Burnouth's business and the hemp-derived cannabinoid sector yet again. The problem is nobody knows what that might be or when it will come. Overall, the federal government is quite unpredictable, said Michelle Bodian of the New York-based co-chair of the Vicente law firm's Hemp and Cannabinoids Department, as well as the Hemp Beverages Alliance General Counsel. The longer this thing drags out, the more opportunity there is for issues to come up to the forefront, she added. It's obviously hard to predict where these are going to land in terms of hemp's favor or against it. And then it goes on to talk about the Farm Bill and the provisions and the timeline. But what this really doesn't address adequately is that the USDA's Farm Bill regulation ends at harvest of hemp. So once they've done a pre-harvest test to show that that variety is below 0.3% THC, and it may be, when it's tested, certainly just a week or two later, you could have THC levels in the teens from something that registered no THC. That's how quick the contents of the trichome can change at harvest time. So really, once that plant or that batch is tested and deemed as hemp, what happens after harvest is not addressed in the Farm Bill at all. And this is where the regulation needs to be picked up from the Food and Drug Administration and not just fall into the bailiwick of the Drug Enforcement Administration, which again is dealing with an antiquated set of laws that considers cannabis a Schedule I drug. How could cannabis be a Schedule I drug when the active ingredients, CBD, and THC are the active ingredients of FDA-approved drugs? This is where the whole Schedule I thing comes unwound, because the plant from which they're derived can definitely not be Schedule I if the active ingredients in FDA-approved drugs that have gone through the gauntlet of clinical trials basically says that, yes, these are medicines and these do help people with these certain diseases. Now, they point out again that CBD companies that sort of cross the line and make medical claims are the ones that have been getting letters, but they get letters, they may get a cease and desist. And occasionally, I guess there is some things in the news about smoke shops being raided and CBD products being taken down. But I don't really think that Congress had fully mulled over the CBD opportunity when they approved the Farm Bill in 2018. I think they got snookered on oil and paper and fiber, which, yeah, you could make out of hemp, but I don't think that they truly considered the regulatory pathway for CBD. Since CBD is the active ingredient of an FDA-approved drug, the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act prohibits adding CBD to food, feed, or cosmetics, which basically is what's keeping the entire CBD market nascent. This article is mostly addressing the intoxicating market, right? So once those hemp plants are deemed hemp and you could convert that into CBD, who's there to regulate what happens to the CBD isolate? So CBD isolate in a chemical reaction can be made into THC. Either Delta 8 at first, the converters were less sophisticated and were jumping off the thermodynamic cliff and making Delta 8. But now they're sophisticated enough that they can make Delta 9. And most of the hemp-derived Delta 9 that's out there in the market in all of those beverages, Elise, that's in your wonderful home state of Minnesota. Shout out for Minnesota. Most of that hemp derived, if not all of it, does not come naturally from the trichome of a cannabis plant. It comes from a chemical reaction. Chemical reactions done basically making active pharmaceutical ingredients by labs that maybe shouldn't be doing that. So this is all a manufactured thing, a byproduct of cannabis prohibition. If people have access to high quality cannabis and cannabis derived products, they won't need recreational synthetics. That's my opinion. I'd love to hear what the rest of my correspondents have to say. I hope you all are having a nice weekend, and don't look into the eclipse without having the right glasses on. Okay, folks? Only Trump does that.
Oh, God.
You know what? He's gonna stare into the eclipse. And he's gonna tell God,
blinded by the light, right, Rico?
Oh man,
not on my watch.
So, what do you guys think about this?
I mean, this. I mean, it sounds to me like all of the CBD companies are taking a dump in their pants because they know they're going to get regulated and not be able to do this Delta 8 stuff and all this other stuff anymore. And they're having a panic attack, and they're figuring out what kind of messaging they got to put out there to the general public to make sure that the public gets enraged if they mess up this farm bill too much.
Well, think about it, Jason. Here's what's going on in Minnesota, right? You have a building, right? And the building is owned by a wealthy man or a wealthy individual, right? And that wealthy individual is taking CBD in the front door. He's converting that into THC, and then he's putting it into a canned beverage. So he's got a canning line. Those canning lines are not cheap. They start anywhere between $1.5 to more like $4 or $5 million, right?
And they're not
cheap.
It's
a huge capital investment to make beverages. But within one building, he's taking Farm Bill legal CBD and he's sending out beverages that basically are diluted down to below the 0.3, but are still enough THC to get somebody hammered. So that's completely copacetic by the Farm Bill, right? There's no illegal operation. There's no thing, right? It's all happening underneath one roof.
Yep.
That's basically what they've enabled.
I guess if you can't beat them, join them, right, Dr. Mark?
Well, is there a value proposition for looking at how you can take non-psychoactive ingredients, do some magical proprietary process, turn them into psychoactive ingredients, and then sell them in a non-licensed market? Mm-hmm. That's what's happening.
Mm-hmm. Any thoughts on this, Matthew?
The whole thing is just insane. We just really need to free the plants, free the fungi. Let people do what they will with things that grow from the earth. They're trying to regulate this, and part of this is the false segregation between hemp and cannabis. They're the same plant, and so this is just folks who were living in 50 to 100 years ago trying to with the 21st century. It boggles my mind.
Mm-hmm. I feel you.
Like he said, $28.4 billion, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that is larger than all of the combined regulated cannabis markets combined.
It is,
right?
It is, and that's
so they're the 900-pound gorilla that's in the room.
That's Rico's favorite,
right, Jason?
Yeah, it's Rico's favorite beverage company out there in Minnesota.
On tap, baby.
Exactly. We're gonna roll to a commercial real quick. We're gonna be right back.
Get ready for the return of the shit show to Los Angeles, returning Friday, May 3rd, 7 p.m. to midnight at a brand new venue. Comedy sets by comedians such as Demi York, Lindsay Ames, Alyssa Phillips, Chris Thayer, Josh Shakespeare, Fumi Avi, Jay Snow, Brent Weinbach, Chris Kelly, and hosted by none other than Abdullah Saeed. So head over to www.cloudmedia.partners now to get your tickets, and we'll see you there.
All right, coming up next, that's right. She is the Hashanista herself. She does fashion. She does cannabis. She loves rosin. And her recent online posts have been teaching women how to be bigger and better. That's right. It is none other than Miss Elise McRoberts.
Wow. Awesome. Thank you, Jason Beck.
Yes.
Hello. Good morning, everyone, fellow correspondents and viewers. Happy Friday. Well, my story rolls right with today's theme, as today I am reading from Marijuana Moment. And it is the House Committee schedules hearing with FDA to talk hemp. And sorry that my story just dropped here, so I got to pull it back up. Sorry, guys. That's a little technical difficulty. We're back. All right. So, talking about hemp again, and today, again, Marijuana Moment from Kyle Yeager. House Committee schedules hearing with FDA head to talk hemp regulations and other issues next week. A congressional committee has announced that it is calling in the head of the Food and Drug Administration to testify on hemp regulatory issues as a way to hold him accountable amid ongoing industry concerns. The House Oversight and Accountability Committee, chaired by Rep. James Comer, who's a Republican from Kentucky, scheduled a hearing with the FDA Commissioner Robert Califf on April 11th. Members of the panel will weigh in on a going investigation into FDA's response to several issues, including hemp regulation, it said in a notice on Thursday. The Oversight Committee has highlighted several crises occurring on the FDA's watch, which have negatively impacted the lives and health of American people and families, Commerce said in the notice. We will hold the commissioner accountable for what the FDA is doing to address ongoing crises, how they are conducting inspections to prevent nationwide crisis in the future, and how they intend to ensure the FDA is the first and foremost protecting American consumers. Other issues set to be discussed include drug shortages, tobacco regulation, food safety, and infant formula. Interesting. This comes nearly a year after a House subcommittee held a first-of-its-kind hearing where members examined the impacts of FDA inaction on developing regulations to allow for the sale of hemp-derived CBD as food items or dietary supplements. Comer, the full committee chairman, has sharply criticized FDA after the agency announced in January that it would not be developing CBD regulations because it said there is not an available pathway to create such rules and it would require congressional action. Last year, the congressman said that his panel would be launching an investigation into the matter, and he requested FDA turn over documents related to its decision not to regulate the cannabinoid. Even before the agency made that decision, the congressman expressed his intent to address the lack of rules. In January, meanwhile, a coalition of hemp industry organizers called on the House Energy and Commerce Committee to hold a hearing addressing the ongoing lack of FDA regulations for products made with constituents of the crop, such as CBD. The hemp industry took a major plunge in 2022, according to a report from the U.S. Department of Agriculture that was released last April. And stakeholders say the FDA's refusal to issue regulations for CBD products is largely to blame. Bipartisan congressional lawmakers refiled a separate pair of bills last March that are also meant to provide a pathway for the regulation of hemp derivatives like CBD as dietary supplements and food and beverage additives. The House Energy and Commerce and Senate Health, Education, Labor, and Pensions HELP is the acronym there, committee responded to the FDA's inaction last summer by putting out a request for information from experts on the best path forward for regulating hemp, with hundreds of respondents sharing their perspective and recommendations. After the FDA announced it wouldn't be taking steps to create hemp and CBD regulations, Senator Ron Wyden, Rand Paul, and Jeff Merkley, along with Rep. Earl Blumhauer, filed legislation last July that would remove regulatory barriers that FDA claims prevents it from allowing the hemp marketing. Meanwhile, the National Association of State Departments of Agriculture has separately called on Congress to increase the THC limit for legal hemp as one of their 2024 priorities. So it goes on a little bit more, just kind of restates the 0.3% THC limit for hemp and the current regulations. But basically, the story is letting us know that they're going to have these conversations. And what do we think about that, fellow correspondents? What do we think do we think they're going to achieve anything? Are things going to change? and should, as you know, this relates to Mark's story, and also I think we had another story about.
Well,
I don't know.
Well, I'll tell.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, at least.
What do we think?
I tell you what, at least. I have a feeling. We found exactly what all these little hemp producers are so nervous about from Mark's story, from Dr. Mark's story. That's what we found is like, oh yeah, it's getting closer to the time when they're going to start working and redrafting the farm bill, and they're not going to be able to do a lot of the things and selling the things in the way that they've been doing it, and they're all starting to panic and like, oh my God, our world is caving in. Here we go. That's what's happening.
Right, but the Farm Bill does not address what happens to that hemp plant after it's harvested. Right, that was my
point. The new one might. That's my point. Is I feel like the government has seen the error in the ways in how the Farm Bill rolled out, and so I believe in, from everything that I see and talk to and whatnot, that this new Farm Bill is going to be far more restrictive than how the Farm Bill is in present form.
I think there's an easier way to address this, Elise, rather than putting it through committees in Congress and legislation. This can be done by executive order. This can be done by the Secretary of Health and Human Services writing a letter making an exception for CBD from the FD&C Act, and that letter is all that's required to turn on the CBD market.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they can do this. They can do this by making an exception. And again, I think there's plenty of scientific data to back that, and that sending it back through the FDA and back through Congress, that's a gauntlet that just goes nowhere.
Where's the political?
It really does. They've had years to figure this out, and they haven't. So here's one document signed by one human being that can basically end this whole fucking thing.
Dr. Mark, where's the political capital going to come from to get that done?
Yeah, well, I don't have the answer to that question.
All right, okay, exactly, because it's not coming from anywhere. Because it's not that's not even the reality. That Joe Biden's not going to do it.
Well, it's
now,
not Joe Biden.
It's not
Joe Biden. It's the Secretary of Health and Human Services, right? It's basically one person in the.
So it's
Biden
the director of that department that would write that.
Or whatever administration. It's just one person that can turn on the CBD industry by making an exception to the FD&C Act. And there's precedent for that. Unlike what you're saying, which is you want the USDA's regulatory authority to expand beyond harvest. They don't do that. That's not.
I'm just saying that's what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen.
I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Well, it's the wild, wild west right now. I mean, you can go to any grocery store and buy a CBD gummy or CBD in a drink or
Delta
food,
8,
right?
HHC, THCO, all these things.
And people are mad about that.
Yep.
And then other people are thrilled
Parents
about
are pissed.
that.
Protect the children. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
don't you think if they have access to good cannabis and good cannabis products, that market will go away?
Guess what? Even in the best markets, people don't have the access that they should have because they're all protectionist design market spaces with either local control or limited licensure in certain states, and so you're not going to have that ever.
Yeah, you will, because you got the internet, man.
When we have direct to consumer, that's that at that point, yes, you're correct with that. But in the current framework as it is in every single state, no, not a chance.
But do you guys remember go ahead.
I was just gonna say, we got these two octogenarians that nobody likes that are running for president, and
there's only one
that nobody likes that are running for president. I'm saying, like, if America wants another old white guy in charge of everything, actually have one that's all for the people. Let's bring Bernie back. Come on, let's bring Bernie back.
I will say this, and then I'll roll into our last story. Is that the best chance to keep the farm bill the same is probably to get Trump in there, because after all, he's the one that passed it, and so he would want to keep it the same if anybody did, more than anybody else. Otherwise, they're going to make it more restrictive because they're all prohibitionists. But nonetheless, you guys. You ready for this, Rico? This is a follow-up for my story yesterday. California marijuana delivery drivers authorize a 420 strike, you guys. That's right. More than 500 marijuana delivery workers in California could observe 420 by going on strike. Drivers and the depot workers employed at Ease Technology and the company Plant-Based subsidiary Stacks have voted to authorize a strike as a contract negotiation stall, according to the United Food and Commercial Workers Labor Union. According to a UFCW news release, points of dispute include, Rico, are you ready for this? The rate at which Ease and Stacks reimburse drivers' mileage, currently at 45 cents per mile.
What'd I tell you?
All right. Well, we knew that, and I told you there was more, and there is more. So there's two more things. An increase in the driver's hourly wages, and a minimum number of guaranteed weekly hours. So they want minimums. Workers at locals.
I brought up the hourly one too.
Okay. Well, we didn't know if that was an issue. I knew that I was saying that that's not the crux. They're not just arguing over these cents is all. That's all good. But workers of locals number 5, 135, 324, and 770 rejected the company's last, best, and final contract proposal on March 19th, the union said in the release. Those 4 UFCW chapters are based in Hayward, San Diego, Buena Park, Los Angeles, respectively. And Ease, the CEO, Corey Azzolino, noted in an emailed statement to MJ Biz Daily that drivers are paid, in quotes, fair wages, averaging over $25 per hour, plus tips, plus benefits, and that current contract offer includes an 88% increase in base wages. Ease has not earned a profit in its history, so this is not the case of old industry hoarding profits, and Anzolino told MJ Biz Daily, and in an additional quote, "We have and will continue to bargain in good faith and respect our employees' rights to unionize. Workers would strike unless the company changes its offer though it's still not clear when the strike would begin or how long it would last. If there is a strike, San Francisco-based Ease is prepared to maintain operations," as Alino said. The UFCW also filed 2 National Labor Relations Board complaints against the company, according to public records, and their precedent for an effective labor stoppage timed with 420 and the cannabis industry's official holiday, and generally one of the busiest times of the year for marijuana retailers. Employees at Green Thumb Industries adult use stores in Chicago area began a nearly 2-week strike on April 19th of 2023, the longest work stoppage in U.S. marijuana history to date, and the workers represented by the International Brotherhood of Teamsters ended up getting a nearly 50% wage increase. Meanwhile, Ease drivers in Sacramento recently voted unanimously to join the Teamsters Local 150. According to the union, Ease of Sacramento is the 3rd California marijuana delivery company to sign on with the Teamsters, following Nabis and Amuse. Well. There's the follow-up from yesterday's story, Rico. What do you think about this, bro?
Now that Mercury is in retrograde, that's why we're seeing all this crazy weather all over the place. And for some reason, when I wanted to cover this story yesterday about these unions, my mic wasn't working, my camera wasn't working, so Jason can cover it from a right-wing perspective.
Blame it on Biden, bro. Blame it on Biden.
Try to suppress the message, but now we're back on it, man. It was inevitable, and they better rectify the situation pretty quick, because this could be catastrophic if Ease goes into 420 without.
Hold on a second. So traditionally, unions' powers when workers strike have been basically the fact that they would stand outside of the business and protest, and anyone would get publicly shamed that was like a scab and cross the picket line to go work, that was filling in, doing the work of the business while the workers were on strike, right? Well, how do you do that in this new day and age with an online company, Rico?
How do you do what?
How would the unions be that effective? Like, because my thought is like, just like the CEO said, he said they're still going to continue business operations as usual, regardless of the strike or not. So that just means they're going to hire new employees. And ultimately, then they're going to be less incentivized to be able to ever come to a negotiation with them.
Did it say what their hourly wage is right now?
At $25 an hour.
All right, so $25 an hour.
Hold on.
And if they're not going to be reimbursing, they're making people use their own vehicles, and they ain't going to be reimbursing them.
Paid fair wages, averaging over $25 per hour plus tips, plus benefits. They get benefits, bro. Benefits is a lot, and that current contract offer includes an 88% increase in their base wages. Rico, that's what he's saying.
This is Ease. And this is their CEO that's saying that.
Correct.
What is the rebuttal? What is the rebuttal from the union?
The rebuttal from the unions is they voted to go on strike. They said, nope, your 88% increase is not good enough for us.
No. What are the terms? What are the terms they put up?
What do you mean? They didn't. This article doesn't.
You're talking about one side of the argument. You're talking about the CEO side of the argument. What are the terms that they proposed?
It doesn't. It doesn't list all of the terms in the article, Rico.
Of course, it doesn't.
But it says 88% increase.
The CEO or whatever that gave this interview, where we're only hearing one side of the argument, so I can't speak on it until we have both sides of the argument.
Oh
right?
Boy, I mean,
it doesn't make sense for me to speak on it until we hear both sides. All you're hearing is what the CEO is saying. You're not hearing what the other side.
Yeah,
is
but
saying.
we heard the union side yesterday.
Not completely.
Yeah, we did.
They said yesterday. They said that they are striking because
and now they voted. Now they've officially.
They did not give. They did not give the exact. They didn't give the specifics.
They've officially voted.
So what I look like on here, like yelling like a talking head about something when we don't have all the facts.
I don't know. Well, they've officially voted. They're going to go on strike on 4/19.
Yeah, they voted to go on strike, but this article from MJ Biz Daily did not give all of the details from both sides. Well, so I'm not going to take a stance on it until I hear both sides. If it's fair, it's fair. If it ain't, it ain't.
You're not answering my question, though.
I'm not going to answer your question because your question's flawed.
My question's not flawed. It's a serious question. How if a union's power was by shaming people when they were across the picket line back in the day in the business, how do you do that to a digital? How do you do that to a digital business
right now?
How do you do that to a digital business?
Looking at the media's power, and they're giving one side of this argument, and they're trying to get you to side with the CEO, and we're not seeing the other side of the argument. So I'm not going to answer that. Next.
You have any thoughts on this, Dr. Mark or Elise?
I hope they actually strike. I kind of want to see what happens if Ease has no drivers on 4/19, 4/20. Shout out to the small mom and pop delivery operators that are plentiful in this state. Yeah, so
I ride with
there's other places to get weed.
Jason supports the man. Jason supports the ones that are just trying to get more dollars and go against the people. I'm all about being for the people. And until we hear what the people's argument is, I'm not going to comment on it, Jason. I'm going to say I'm with the people.
Okay. Mm-hmm. You can cop out,
strike on,
not answer if you don't want to. It's okay. I still don't see how it's going to be that effective. They're just going to have new people. You're not going to know even who these people are. The people are still going to be ordering weed. They're not even going to know this is going on.
I'm waiting for drone delivery.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if consumers don't know that Ease drivers are striking,
that's what I'm saying.
Just trying to order, they still can order.
Exactly.
It's kind of a law.
Exactly.
Battle.
It's a total. That's my point. It's a total loss. It's a total loss. It doesn't. Just saying.
They can be replaced by drones.
Not yet. Not yet. That's against the California law currently.
Get replaced.
Self-driving cars.
Yeah, self-driving cars or some kind of self-driving thing, right?
That's against the California code to allow that right now.
It seems like
there'd have to be a law change
in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Ease said from the jump they're not a cannabis company; they are a tech company.
They are a technology company. So, you're right. You're right. They're not a cannabis company.
Yeah, so that's the direction that they want to go.
Mm-hmm.
Let the market figure it out.
I'll tell you what.
And I hope the people side with their own local delivery over using a tech giant that's going to be pushing. That's not going to be paying their people properly.
I will tell you this much. Rico, with Ease, is that if they're complaining about this, that they may possibly be the cheapest big tech company.
If they
Well, they said they never turned a profit in their
That's what I'm
history,
saying.
so-
That's what I'm saying. They could be the cheapest big tech company. You know what I mean? Like all these other big tech companies got big runways of burn rate. Doesn't sound like Ease is easing up on that burn rate.
Where we had the debate yesterday, Elise, was he said they never turned a profit in history. However, California business was profitable. And this is why I stand by my argument. If you claim your company is profitable in California, pay your workers what they are worth. That's it. If you claim to be profitable here, why are you punishing them for your ill business tactics elsewhere where you're not profitable? But you're bragging on a podcast months ago that you are profitable in California. California workers are striking, and that's why. I stand with the people, Jason. This is why for large companies like this, I'm not for unions in every situation, but for large companies like this where people can get taken advantage of, like, I'm 100% behind them.
Mm-hmm. Fair enough. You ready, Rico?
Yeah.
It's Friday.
Come on, Jason. Yeah, give me the facts, baby. Give me the facts. But thank you all for joining us for yet another week of High at 9 News. You can catch us live weekdays, 9 a.m. Pacific, high noon on the East Coast. Big shout out to our super fan show and love. Getting their comments posted live on the big screen, live audience on it, and supporters. Catching us across all media platforms, tuning in each day to the headlines of chaos, also known as the developing cannabis industry. To our vetted correspondent team tuning in from all over, bringing this much-needed variety of perspective and your respected opinions to the table. Our production team, Cloud Media Partners, all the sponsors keeping our lights on, and our AV struggles to a minimum. Big shout out to Big Adam back there, feathering the hell out of his hair, man. Hope you didn't fall out the sky with all this wind and crazy weather we're having out here, man. Get your coat game up. John Travolta always had a nice leather on his back. Tell you what, brother. As always, Cannabis Sativa L, the reason we show up to read these stories every single day. Thank you too, baby girl. It has been Friday, April 5th, 2024. The show's over. You've all been blessed with the top industry headlines. Hope it's enough for you to put in your pipe and smoke at least until Monday. My name is Rico Lamitte, the dopest dad on the street for High at 9 News, the cannabis industry's #1 daily news show. And we're going to go back out to Earthquake Central on the East Coast. My man, Mark Scialdone. What we got for us today, man? You going to take these people out with some positive messaging?
Yes. Well, I mean, so this weekend is basically bookended by an earthquake on Friday and it eclipses on Monday. So, there's a whole lot of possibilities, right? So it's a celestial event. It's a Earth event, right? But, here we are. We're floating on this little blue ball and we all got to live together. So let's be happy. And let's celebrate each other and celebrate the cannabis plant this weekend. And don't look into the eclipse because you'll go blind. Peace.
Don't follow.
Don't look into the light, Carol Ann.
Doing on TV.
Don't look into the light.